All right, you guys, welcome to Akashic Allures Dragon Institute Module 1, Ancestral Dragons. I'm really excited today because, well, I don't know why they want me to talk about this, but Venus went into Libra. It's a really nice energy today. Um, but also this is like our first module, which I'm really excited about. It's the first time that I'll be channeling the dragons for you guys. And I usually channel the goddesses, but now I'm channeling the dragons, so that will be really exciting. Really cool stuff has come through today, so we'll just get into it. And also, this is like a huge DNA upgrade. Please take it easy on yourself. Me and Alex are already sweating. And it's really normal. Like the dragon energy is a lot to integrate. So really just take it careful. If you want to like not finish this whole workshop and take a break, that's completely fine. Do not overdo it. It's also a really big Kundalini activation, DNA activation, energy upgrade. So again, this is a lot. Okay, so let's get into it. So today's agenda, channeling the ancestral dragons of your bloodline. So I'll be calling in everybody's dragons, and just having them come in as a collective. Then we're going to talk about the history and the culture of dragons on this earth, which I'm really excited about. How our ancestors work with the dragons. We're going to talk about spiritual bloodlines, reclaiming your connection, and then what's coming up for our Akashic practice on Sunday. Okay. All right. So that is today's agenda. All right. So this is it, you guys. This is the beautiful image that came to me, and they're like, nope, this white dragon has to specifically come in. I'm like, okay. And then also the DNA dragons are also here as the double helix, as our DNA. And then we're really gonna they're really saying this we literally share DNA with these dragons. Like these dragons are creatures of the earth, whether you see them as just like an archetype or you see them as actual mythical beings. They're still within our genetic frequency because of how many cultures like talked about dragons and had them in their culture. It's just so innately human to like deal with dragons or believe in dragons or work with dragons, or give reverence or fear dragons. It is ancestral, it is innate inside of us, and it's just going to blow your mind how many cultures in this world talk about dragons. It's crazy. Okay, so let's just get into it. All right, so I want you guys to close your eyes, really connecting to your heart space and breathing into your heart space. Letting this expand your heart, letting this expand your mind, letting this expand your consciousness. And we're calling up this beautiful, ancient, grounding energy, calling up this energy from ancient earth, the energy of the earth from your ancestors, calling in that energy from that space and time, and connecting that to your root chakra. And you're connecting with an earth that was lighter in frequency, an earth that had the bridges open to the spirit realm where the elementals were able to come in and out of the physical realm, such as the dragons and the fae and the trolls and the giants. And you're connecting with that magical earth frequency and an ancient way of consciousness. And then imagining that grounding cord becoming like a double helix DNA spiral, coming from the center of the earth, spiraling up through the magma, through the lava, through the water, through the caves and the gems, breaking tectonic plates, and connecting at your root chakra. And this DNA spiral continues up through your sacral chakra, your solar plexus, your heart chakra, your throat chakra, your third eye, and your crown chakra. As you just see these beautiful dragons twirling in this beautiful double helix of energy. One dragon's energy going up, another's dragon energy going down, back to the earth. And as you breathe, these dragons just writhe together along your spinal column, along your central chakra channel. And really calling upon your own ancestors to come in now into the space. And then just seeing them surround you as the veil is still really thin this Scorpio season. And you connect with them through your root chakra and your heart space. And they surround you and protect you in a bubble of white light, sending you so much love, sending you so much healing. Just feeling really rooted and grounded into your indigenous roots and embodying one of your own indigenous ancestors, the one that was one with the land, that could feel the spirits and magic of the earth, that gave reverence to these mythical beings, these energies, these forces of nature. And just breathing in those memories, that time period, really awakening that dormant, ancient, indigenous DNA inside of you. As the dragons from the cosmos and the Akasha, they come down in a beautiful double helix spiral, coming down into your crown chakra and connecting to the double helix of your chakra centers. Now calling upon the dragons of your ancestral line, seeing them come forward. They could be sea serpents, they could have wings, they could have feathers, they could be from different cultures, they could be from your spiritual bloodline, from your past lives as well. Now I'll be channeling one of the dragons or the dragon collective of your ancestors. Great beings, awakened ones, enlightened ones, priestesses of the dragon path. We've brought you here today to awaken your ancestral DNA and help you remember the ways of life on Earth. Dragons have been here since the birth of Earth, and your ancestors understood that they were part of the creation of Earth and the evolution of humanity. We unveil and we uncover these secrets and share with these secrets with you today as you remember deeper your ancestral and ancient way of consciousness, a way of consciousness that was more in tune with the magic and spirit of Earth, that could yield and use the forces of nature for healing, for magic, for their spiritual evolution.
And that's why we are seen in so many different myths and so many different cultures, and why we're still spoken about in pop culture and media and books today. The archetype dragon has never left. The remembrance could never be forgotten. The history is here within your DNA, and we are living proof that the magic still resides and is awakening deeper on this planet. And the return of the dragons is the return of ancient indigenous consciousness, is the return of new earth, an ancient earth, a magical earth, where the forces of magic and nature and science can finally be aligned and become one, where our awakened consciousness is able to see and understand higher beings on higher dimensions. And we are awakening Earth into the higher dimensions and the higher realms, for we will start to see more of these beings that you thought were just mythical creatures. Is because Earth is returning to a lighter frequency, just as your ancestors have lived it before. And we will walk side by side, just as our ancestors did. And this was prophesied and this was seen many years ago, and it is returning now, and the prophecy is being fulfilled now again. And this is given to the psychics, the oracles of this time, the priestesses of this time. For they are the ones to understand and know ahead of time where the earth and the collective is heading. And dragons are essential in the part of Earth's ascension and humanity's ascension. As we usher in this dragon energy, we have already been doing it for the past few years, but it is even more prominent, prevalent, and potent at this time. So many shifts are going to be occurring on Earth, within the collective, and do not let this scare you, for this is just the medicine of the dragons. This is just the myth and the archetype that humanity needs to go through. And do not fear your own inner dragons, and do not fear the dragons as a collective. And we hope to restore the balance and the connection between humans and dragons once again. Feel this in your heart space. Feel us in your heart space as we try to gently ease and integrate our energy and our frequency within your physical and energetic systems. We are activating an ancient, dormant part of your consciousness. And with this comes wisdom and gnosis of secrets and mysteries that have not been unveiled until this moment. So trust the wisdom that you are receiving from yourself, from your own dragons, from your own ancestors. And we return you now into your physical body, returning you now into your heart space, turning you now into the present moment, into the room that you once came. Wiggling your toes and your fingers. And now we're back. Hey, Kat. Sorry, I was just channeling, so I didn't see that you were in the waiting room. No, you're all good.
Hey,
You're
sorry.
no, don't apologize. I was channeling. So yeah, definitely check the replay for that channel. That was really beautiful. I love the dragons. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, you guys. I'm excited. Okay, so I talked about this a little bit within our initiation. So again, this is completely up to you whether you believe dragons as just an archetype or as a real creature, a real higher dimensional being. For me, I think of it as both. So an archetype, so according to Google, an archetype is a reoccurrent symbol slash motif in literature, art, and mythology, right? So we think of the dragon archetype as, or dragons as an archetype because they're literally in so many different cultures, even when cultures didn't know, they're continents apart, right? So how would they even know? And they're also describing dragons in a very similar energy. Okay, so archetypes really deal with the collective subconscious. So that's why there are always reoccurring symbols and themes within many different myths, right? So the ancient Egyptian myths are very similar to the Christian myths, are similar to the Sumerian myths, right? We're always going to see very similar things. We're always going to have a goddess of beauty. We're always going to have a goddess of fertility. We're always going to have a god of war. We're always going to have dragons, kings, queens. All of these things are different archetypes, again, across society. These are just symbols, ideas that is innate in humans, and it connects us because, again, this is our collective subconscious. So even if we do not know these cultures, or we don't know, the ideas aren't spread through the internet or through travel, it's just a living energy that we pull ideas from this collective brain, because we're all human, we're all connected in somehow. Okay, so we can interpret the divine powers slash forces and energies through our human consciousness. So again, I'm talking about dragons purely as an archetype, if we only purely think of it as an archetype, right? So to our human consciousness, how we can even conceive what this powerful divine force is, they imprint in our imagination as certain symbols. Okay, and we associate these symbols with certain things that we already see as humans, such as dragons, or having like claws of a hawk, or the body of a hippopotamus. So we see dragons having like different types of like animal bodies, or just like a flying serpent, because we associate that with certain characteristics of this divine force that we're dealing with. Okay, so for example, fairies can be how humans interpret a childlike, whimsical, creative force that changes nature, right? They're playful, they're painting the flowers, and we just see fairies as like little, like dainty kids, or like small, like cute fairies, because it is the childlike aspect of the divine, and we interpret that as a pretty little pixie. Okay, and dragons can be very similar. So how we interpret it through our consciousness as a ferocious, chaotic, transformative power of nature, right? We can see like, oh my god, that is like snakes. Humans really, really fear snakes. They gave great reverence and respected snakes, and they feared snakes. So a flying snake dragon would be very similar to how they interpret the whirlwind, or how they interpret the storm, how they interpret the spirit of an earthquake. Okay, so again, this is purely if you just want to see dragons as an archetype. Personally, for me, again, I think it's both. I think they are beings that exist on a higher dimension that is actually, we are able to perceive with our psychic senses, and that does look like these
flying serpents or have wings or just like these huge monstrous creatures. Okay. All right. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it in so many different cultures of the world. So this is funny because basically the Kukulkan or the Quetzalcoatl wants their own slide. And they're definitely a dragon that I very feel connected to, and they're definitely a dragon of the Dragon Institute, but they just wanted like just one slide dedicated to them. So the Kukulkan, which is the Mayan name for it, or the Quetzalcoatl, which is the Aztec name for it, is a feathered serpent. It is associated with the winds, the rain, many different things, right? So this is the temple of Chichen Itza, or this is Chichen Itza, and they have the temple of Kukulkan here, right? During the spring equinox, I was actually here during the spring equinox. My ex-boyfriend took me to Tulum, and it is built in a certain way where at a certain point on the spring equinox, and I think on the other equinox too, this shadow perfectly hits the stairs of Chichen Itza, and it looks like the serpent is coming down, right? And then there's the head of the serpent or Kukulkan, which is just so freaking beautiful and so cool. How they built this for the dragon, the flying serpent, the Kukulkan, and how at certain like astrological moments, you can actually see it come down. And I don't know if they knew that was going to happen on the equinoxes or what, but I think it's just like pure magic how that just lines up. So, yes, they were very advanced. They were very advanced with astrology and mathematics, but I don't know. It just blows my mind how the proportions and how they built this temple makes it look like how it's just descending down. It's just the coolest thing ever. Okay. So it's associated with many things, not just the wind, but what is this, you guys? This is a small tornado in Chichen Itza. And this is what the ancients saw as well. Okay. This is the force of nature that the ancients saw as a dragon. I mean, what? Look at that. What do you think that is, you guys? What is this? Is the temple of Chichen Itza or the temple of Kukulkan, and they're associated with the winds. It looks like a flying serpent. It looks like the body of a dragon to me. Okay, so imagine with your ancient consciousness as a Mayan, and you see this natural phenomenon and you feel the spirit that is causing and the magic that is causing this unexplained phenomenon to happen. You're gonna think it's a dragon. You're gonna think it's this divine, powerful being that is it's showing itself to you. So again, I personally think that it's like in the higher realms, it's a dragon, and then in the physical realm, this is how it actually physically shows up. Okay, so in the higher, like as above, so below. So what's going on in the like ethers has to manifest in some way on like the physical reality. Okay, so I don't know that one. I'm just like, yes, dragons, they're here, they're real. Okay, so let's talk about the North, South Americas and the Caribbean. Okay, so this is the Piazza, which is in Mississippi. Obviously, this is not remastered, but restored. Okay, this is near the Mississippi River. This was on rocks. A French colonizer saw this depiction while they were on the Mississippi River. On the Mississippi River, so they have antler ears and they have these claws and they have these wings, and it's like this ferocious beast. Okay, this is another Mayan serpent or flying serpent called the Mixocoatl, which is a cloud serpent, and it is associated with the Milky Way galaxy. The Amaru Inca, again, it has so many different, has like the tail of a snake, it has like the head of a llama, like it has some, maybe this like a jaguar, I believe, just like a completely conglomerate of different animals. Also associated with the Milky Way galaxy, also associated with, hold on, I actually wrote notes for this one because some of them want me to talk about them more in depth. I'm like, okay, you guys. So yeah, they're at the bottoms of lakes and rivers. The Amaru also is associated with water, wisdom, storm, hail, and the rainbow. Okay. The sky snake, this is from Brazil, the Yawanawa. So he drew a flying serpent. There's a ground serpent. This is the plant of ayahuasca, and ayahuasca is also a plant medicine that is also associated with the serpent. And I could also say that ayahuasca could also take the form of a dragon. Personally, that's what I think. The Wedo, which is from Haiti, so voodoo mythology and Caribbean / African. So that they were a servant of the Maulisa. Okay, and that's like the creator goddess. Again, some of them want me to go in depth about their myth. I'm like, okay, guys. So as this rainbow serpent went across the land, the serpent left rivers, valleys, canyons, and mountains, and they're associated with fertility, rainbows, and they hold the heavens and the earth together. Okay, so you're going to see a lot of associations with very similar things. And again, these are like cultures apart, right? Like some of these indigenous cultures, they don't know like other indigenous cultures exist, right? So how are these two both associating dragons with rainbows, both associating dragons with the Milky Way galaxy, right? These are just like powerful forces of nature. Okay. And how how the Ayurveda was associated with how the earth and how the water has eroded the valleys and has made mountains and has made rivers. It's that creational force that changes the landscape of the earth, right? It's like this divine, powerful force in which creates weather, creates again like the evolution of how the landscape is. Okay, again, they're literally everywhere. It just blows my mind. Let's get into some more. So dragons in Europe. So they wanted me to specifically shout out the UK, Iceland, Scotland, Wales, and Greece. Those are huge dragon portals, but again, they are in so many different countries. So the Portuguese coat of arms, there's a dragon. Austria and Hungary, this is the heraldry house of Habsburg. The UK coat of arms is right here. This is the flag of Wales. This is the coat of arms of Scotland, and this is the coat of arms of Iceland. There's a dragon here. And then also, obviously, with Greece, Python is a myth. So Apollo slayed Python, and where he slayed Python, he built the Temple of Delphi. The Temple of Delphi is where they trained oracles, and the smoke that they were smelling from the dead body of the dragon allowed the oracles to see visions from the future. Hydra is, if you guys watch Hercules or you know the myth of Hercules, is a multiple-headed dragon. Okay, so Roman and Greek myths. So yeah, they are all across Europe. And I know this is a lot of like royalty symbology, but I personally believe that these are, again, spirits of the land. Like this is the spirit of Scotland. Like this is the dragon of Scotland. This is the dragon of Wales. And if you are royalty, then you basically go into the royal bloodline of having this spiritual or the spirit of the dragon within your bloodline. Okay, you're kind of fusing your royal bloodline with the spirit of the land, and that was like what royalty did. Okay, so yeah, again, all over Europe, I see them a lot as having wings more so instead of kind of just like flying serpents. But even so, even if they kind of look like griffins, that's also a thing. So thunderbirds, sea serpents, flying serpents, I kind of place that all as like dragons. Even this one, it has a lion head. Again, dragons can kind of come in as like a conglomerate of like different animals together as well. Okay, so that's Europe, which is pretty common. You guys probably know about this. This is the Middle East. Okay, so Tiamat from Mesopotamia. Um, this is a dragon on the gate of Ishtar, which was in Babylonia, which in Babylonian traditions. I can't even say this. Yankas of Turkey. Okay. This is the dragon who guarded the stream in mythology, which is Persia, Iran. Okay, they are literally in so many different cultures. So many different cultures. It really blows my mind. We're gonna keep going. Africa. Okay. African dragons. The Amut, which is this creature with the head of a crocodile, like the feet of a hippopotamus, the paws of a leopard, right? They are there during the weighing of the heart ceremony. And the weighing of the heart ceremony is basically they have the feather of Ma'at, which is the goddess of truth and justice, and they weigh a person's soul against the feather of Ma'at. So your soul needs to be lighter than a feather, and that's how you get to heaven, right? So if your soul isn't lighter than a feather, if it's heavier than the feather, then this creature will eat your soul. Okay, so that's what they believed in Egyptian mythology. The Bida is also like a um, West African dragon, again, associated with being underwater. The Ninki Nanka West African dragon, again, kind of like they call it the dragon, like the African Nessie. Again, associated with like lakes, lakes, the underwaters. Okay. And this one I actually find really interesting. So Theodore de Bry did a carving of Africa for the 16th century, and it's just he's just depicting historical moments. Okay, you can look this guy up. He's just depicting colonization basically. He went to America, he depicted like Christopher Columbus, and here he's depicting all these different like indigenous cultures because of colonization. So yeah, this is what Africa looks like to him. And there's just like a dragon there. Right. So again, I'm like, is that just a myth or is he just portraying history? Is he just drawing out what Africa looked like and the landscape and the animals that live there? Right. So again, this is always like on the forefront of their minds. And I also believe like there's definitely creatures that look like this in the sea. Even think about it, like way back when, they definitely look like these things. Okay, so that's Africa. Asia is like already a really big one that you guys know. So Chinese dragons, these are the ones that I really see not really having wings. But this is pretty cool, you guys. So Chinese dragons, obviously there's Japanese dragons, there's Korean dragons. Um, and Asian culture is very much associated with dragons, as you guys know. There's a really cool dragon temple in Thailand. There's the Dragon Bridge in Vietnam. And I know these are like kind of more modern, but I'm just trying to show you guys like how deep it is in our culture to like give reverence and to honor and depict dragons. Okay, so this is in Thailand. This is the Dragon Bridge in Vietnam. This is a flag of Bhutan, which is like a country in the Himalayas. Okay, and this is from my own culture. the Bakuwana from the Philippines. Again, a very like sea serpent snake, and it eats the moon. Which again, it's very similar to the Draco constellation, which also eats the moon, and that's why the moon has like its phases. Right, so we're seeing very similar themes of dragons causing like earthquakes or being of the sea, rainbows. Okay, there's also a Polynesian dragon with a Taniwa. The Indian in Hindu mythology, they also have dragons, the Vritas, I think that's what they call it. And then they have the dragon gates in Hong Kong. Okay, so when you go to Hong Kong, you're gonna see these feng shui dragon gates, right? So again, what the architects believe is that these dragons come out of the water and go through these gates. And if they don't have a path to go through, then it's going to fuck up the feng shui of everything. It's going to fuck up the people living in these apartments. It's going to fuck up like the companies and how they're able to make money, right? So this is like, again, deeply, deeply, deeply ingrained. They knew that these dragons are just like flying in the sky and that we need to be mindful and create the gates for them. This is also what I believe that the Golden Gate Bridge is. Okay, that is also like a dragon gate for them. So yeah, so many different cultures. It blows my mind how many different cultures believe and talk about dragons. Again, probably not knowing about each other. And they're on every single continent. Okay. And this is why I think they were actually like physical beings. Yes, I think it's both. I think it's like natural, like, oh my God, an aurora borealis or a tornado or a rainbow. I think they could feel the spirit of nature, but I think that they were also like creatures as well that we were able to see. Okay. Um, so yeah, so many different dragons, and they have very similar myths as well. So we're gonna talk about that. Hold on. Okay. All right, you guys. Cool. So a way for our indigenous ancestors, again, it's a way for our indigenous ancestors to interpret natural phenomenon. So what you guys saw with like the whirlwind, whirlpools, let's say like at the bottom of a lake or a river, suddenly there's a whirlpool or suddenly there's a sinkhole, and your ancestors are like, oh my God, what is spirit trying to say? What's going on? What's going on with the gods? Okay. Our ancestors were naturally attuned to the magic and spirit of the earth. Okay. And it wasn't like, I personally don't believe like, oh, like our indigenous ancestors, they didn't, this is the only way they could interpret it because they didn't have science back then and they had to explain it through dragons. I don't think it's that personally. I think it's because our ancestors could feel and see and see like the powers of the divine creation and destruction happening on earth and talking through them through the weather. Okay. Their consciousness was not separate from the land. And the weather was a reflection of the mood of themselves internally, as a collective, and of the gods. Okay. So again, across continents, they are associated with thunder, storms, fire, whirlpool, rain, rivers, wind. Okay. Asia has rain dragons, and they have rain dragons in Mexico, right? And how would they both associated with that unless there is really this mythical being that is causing the rain to occur? Okay. So yeah, whenever you guys see rainbows, whenever you look at the aurora borealis, whenever you see thunder, whirlpools, tornadoes, like winds, hailstorms, you can kind of imagine the spirit and the energy of a dragon causing that to happen. Again, as above, so below. Okay. And it's also, I want to say too that like some of the dragons that I talked about, not every single one was like worshipped. Some of them were like feared. Some of them were like our ancestors were scared of them. Our ancestors like had to give sacrifices to them. Um and or they just saw like the forces of nature or a tornado like kill part of their like tribe, right? So some of them were, again, like as even as like humans or people, some souls are good or some people are bad and some people are good. Like not all dragons are actually good. Okay, so that's also what I want to say in terms of like working with dragons as spirit beings. Again, not all of them are good. Have your discernment with like what dragons like you really want to connect to. Okay. But some of them were beautiful and helpful and amazing for humans. Okay. So that's what I also want to say about dragons. Okay. So our spiritual bloodlines. So I want to say we're going to talk more about this during our Akashic practice, but your connection with dragons can come from your past lives in which you incarnated into a different genetic bloodline. So we have a lot of past lives, right? So it's almost a sense, I don't want to say your spiritual bloodline is like every single bloodline that you've ever incarnated into. Personally, I don't think that's what it is. I think it's the bloodlines that we specifically feel very drawn to in this lifetime. So if you feel very drawn to Indian culture, if you feel very drawn to Mexican Mayan culture, if you feel very drawn to Chinese culture, you may have past lives where you've incarnated into that bloodline a lot and over again. Okay, so I think the biggest difference is if you have or like again, like if you're very connected to like Egyptian mythology, like that's another example. Um, but if you have incarnated into that bloodline and let's say like you were Mayan for like a lot of bloodlines. This is like for me example. I was Mayan and I just kept reincarnating within my family. I just wanted to stay with my Mayan family. I feel very connected to going to Mexico. I feel very connected to the Mayan culture. Um, and again, I think that's why the Coco can is like here. So I've seen this in terms of giving people readings, right? So some people have like I've literally seen this. They have Native American shamans in their spirit team, and they actually aren't Native American whatsoever, right? But that shaman still chooses and it still wants to protect the soul of that person, even if that person is not within that reincarnation. Okay. So you could have Chinese monks, you could have Native Americans, you could have, you know, like spirit guides of different cultures within your spirit team, within your Akashic master teachers and loved ones. And then that could also be dragons. Okay. Um, so yeah, if you are activated by any of the dragons from the other cultures that I talked about, use your intuition and research them more and be like, hey, like, why do I feel so connected to this Mesopotamian dragon? Why do I feel so connected to this Polynesian dragon? Right? Like, it doesn't mean that you have that maybe genetically in your DNA, but it could mean that, you know, in a past life, you remember the myths, you remember living that life, living amongst the dragons, living in that land with those elemental dragons. Okay, so yeah, this is a photo of me at the Temple of Kukulkan. God, long ago, because look at me with my freaking blonde hair. Oh my God. But yeah, I love, again, as I said before, I love Mexican culture. And like I've eaten like Mexican, like traditional Mayan tamales, and it just makes me really emotional because I'm like, this is just, it just ignites my soul. It ignites my bloodline or my this like remembrance. Okay, so it's gonna be like a really strong reaction, just like a really deep gut feeling that you're connected to these cultures. All right, so that's something that we will be exploring within our Akashic practice, which I'm really excited about. Okay. Okay. So yeah, reclaiming your connection. Your ancestral dragons come from the spirit of the land of your ancestors. So, my modules are kind of gonna like flow into each other. Like we kind of talked about the royal energy of dragons and the elemental energy of dragons. And I know those are like our upcoming modules. But yeah, they really do flow with each other. Okay. All right. The memory of these spirits slash elementals again live within your DNA and you can access them through your Akashic records. Okay. So some ways that you can connect with this dragon force and this dragon energy, researching more about your own culture and myth of dragons. I was actually really surprised to learn about my own Filipino dragons. I mean, obviously, I understood that, yes, like I'm so connected to dragons. I have to have, or my ancestors definitely believed in dragons, but I didn't know, like, I don't know, just the myth of it was so activating. I was like, okay, cool. Like this is really in my bloodline, but it's in everybody's bloodline. That's what I really want to say. It's literally in everybody's bloodline. I tried to like be very broad and trying to like literally encompass the whole globe because that's how universal and global dragons are. It is in everybody's bloodline. It is just inherently human. Um, Researching other cultures' dragons that you're drawn to. Um, Adding dragons to your ancestral altar. So yes, they can actually be your ancestors. Okay, which is another thing that is pretty cool. And then meditating and asking the Akasha for dragon messages. So the dragons are, if you like listen to the channeling that I did, they really want to reawaken this connection and this bond that we used to have because it was so deep and innate. Okay, they've been here since the beginning of humanity. Okay, they've been here since the beginning of Earth and the creation of Earth, right? And they want to be remembered as like, no, I'm not just like something that you see in movies and books. Like we're part of your history. We're part of the reason why our consciousness has evolved to the way it is. Okay, and they really, really want to restore that connection. Okay. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna say this again. Communicating, connecting, and worshiping dragons is innately human. It's not just some woo-woo spiritual, like new age stuff that I'm talking about. This is ancient. This is ancestral. This is indigenous. This is the mysteries and secrets of our history and the earth. And this is what it means to be an Akashic Records reader because this is the true history. This is the true meaning of remembering and kind of decolonizing our history and what we were taught because we can actually access the true history of Earth within our Akasha. And not just that, but have it actually be confirmed in the physical and being like, oh, I think my ancestors worship dragons. And then I look it up. And of course, there's myths about dragons, right? It's something that we deeply, deeply, deeply remember and we can restore. Okay. So yeah, this is the mess. This is like why this course even wanted to be created because it's time. It's time for humans. It's time for us as a collective, as humanity to remember and restore this collection, this connection. Okay. It is actually like really, really imperative. For our evolution. This is kind of like the Kundalini snake. They've been here, connecting us deeper to the magic of Earth, connecting us deeper to the wisdom of the cosmos. Okay. So yeah, that's what I want to say. That's my little spiel. Um, okay, you guys. So actually, I think we're not even going to go over an hour. Great, beautiful. All right, so for our next Akashic practice, We are going to start learning Akashic energy work, and we're definitely going to do a reading. But yeah, here is what we're doing for our Akashic practice. So opening the hand chakras, grounding cord, running life force energy, basically the basics of energy hygiene, and then using Akashic energy to do that. And it's just, we're just going to build up like your connection with your Akashic energy, the opening of your hand chakras and the opening of your channel. So we're going to do this like multiple times just to like expand and attune yourself more and more to Akashic energy. We're going to prep our chakra system to go into the Akasha, activating our light body, activating our soul star chakra, and then actually running Akashic energy. So not just like universal energy, but your specific Akashic energy, right? This is why it's different from Reiki. Reiki is universal energy, it's the key. But it's different from Akashic energy because that is your soul God frequency that you are running through your channel. So before you start doing it for other people, I want you to do it for yourself. So yeah, I'm really excited about teaching energy work. And the ancestors are like, we want to be in this reading. I'm like, okay. So we're gonna read each other's ancestors or have ancestors come through. Ancestral dragons, if that's something that you want to do, again, it's completely up to you. This is just kind of like a guideline for whatever you guys want to go into. But ancestors really want to come through. The veil is still super thin. In past lives. So usually I do past lives for our first Akashic practice, but the ancestors are like, no, it's us. And I'm like, okay. Goes in tune with our module. Okay, so that's it. That's our first module, you guys. I hope you enjoyed. Um, I'm really excited. We're also going to be having a like 11/11 ritual. I will be sending an email to you guys on that very soon. But yeah, that's it, you guys. So I'm gonna stop the recording there.